everybody, and welcome to the show. I'm going to be doing a solo podcast for the first time. We're going to be doing a monthly news wrap-up of all things digital, and we had a vote for artificial intelligence on last episode, so we'll be touching on that as well. First off, I just want to thank everybody. We've had such an amazing response, and you know, my goal for this podcast is really to create a sort of a bit of a platform for retailers, general guests, you know, just to come on and have a chat and talk about what they're doing, whether they're an entrepreneur, whether they're a senior vice president of a big multinational corporation, or if they're just running a small business in the back of Burke somewhere. I really want to hear about your story. I've put up a special page. We have a booked out show actually until December. I'm really excited about the coming guests. We've got such a wide variety, so stay tuned. It's only going to get bigger. It's only going to get better, and I'm super excited about it. First off, I just wanted to address some of the questions that I've been getting actually. I came from a number of very big organizations, well-known organizations. Why I started the Digital Discovery Group and what's the purpose of it, what services do we offer, and how can I help from both businesses to business and just consumers as well. So being a retailer and being in the industry for so long, you see a lot. You see a lot with vendors. You see a lot your experiences as a retailer. You see both the good side and the bad side. I've been to so many conferences. I've been to so many different retail and industry events. I love seeing the guest speakers. I love seeing all of that. Early platforms like Magento, they had some of the best conferences. And I would always go to the startup lane. And I've met so many amazing people, and they had tiny booths at the time. Some examples would be Gaetan from Algolia. He had a few customers at the time. I met him in a cafe. I'm actually going to go through that story with my next guest on the podcast next week. I met Peter, the founder of Adyen. Now he's a multi-billion-dollar business. Part of the reason why I started the Digital Discovery Group was because that discovery for me was really what I wanted to focus on. I wanted to focus on retailers discovering new technologies, and I wanted to offer my services to small businesses, actually businesses of all sizes that have these interesting startups that, can't afford to have big digital teams. But as I said in my last podcast, I've got the experience. I can take your business from $5 to $6 million a year to $150 million a year, like I did with Bing Lee. And, there is a formula to it. There are some guys that have done it and they got in early, Gabby from Catch of the Day, Kogan, obviously he's done so well. They're all super smart guys. And, they saw the opportunity, and it's that saying, you see a need, you fill a need. And for me, what's fulfilling for me is helping people. And I've always loved helping people, helping businesses grow. So that's why I started the business. The services that I offer, I think I'm going to keep that one short because I can cover pretty much everything when it comes to e-commerce, pretty much. There's not really much I haven't done, from robotics and logistics and warehousing, all the way through to artificial intelligence and stock replenishments and stock and fulfillment algorithms, all the way through to building a basic website and setting up a Shopify store, working on UX, working on all of the basics around what an e-commerce site is. I've also done a lot of work around data. I've worked with Tableau a lot, and this is why I've had Eddie on the show. Data is super interesting to me, and I think if you're not looking at data, I'm here to help you, either myself or my contacts. Through the Digital Discovery Group, I will be able to help you achieve whatever it is you're trying to achieve. So I offer a wide range of services. I've actually wanted to share with you, as part of my services, I've recently put up this page because I've been getting a lot of people asking questions on my website. I've put up a page here to make the switch. It basically goes into where I kind of sit. I sort of sit between your marketing teams, your customer service teams, and your technology teams. I kind of bring all of that together. So the core to what I do is in between marketing, technology, and that customer service piece. And to make the switch to Digital Discovery Group, if you're not entirely happy with whether it's the agency that you're using, it's really quite simple. Go to my website, follow this Make a Switch. You'll see all of the different areas that I cover, from technology site performance agencies, SEO, security, analytics, and just fill out the form. I'll get that information and I'll give you a buzz. I'll have a look at your website and I'll probably set up a quick meeting. It'll only be about 15 minutes of your time. And from there, we'll go through what your needs are. I'll put a scope together and then a proposal, and then we'll catch up and work out how we can work together. So look, I'm really super excited about helping you. Again, this is why I started the Digital Discovery Group. The podcast for me was just a platform to share the knowledge, the 15 plus years I have the experience. And look, if not as part of the group, what I'll offer is normally 9 times out of 10, I will connect you with an agency. I will connect you with a development house after I've worked out exactly what your needs are. So that's enough about me. Let's go on to just a few things, some questions I get a lot, and I've had a lot since I started the business. One of them is, got a website. I don't really know how to work it. It has these features I want to start using. These are really simple questions. And a lot of the times it depends on where you are in the business, whether you've progressed to making significant revenue. You would start investing heavily in understanding the nuances around your platform from day one. You don't have to be a certain size, but a lot of the time business owners don't have that. They get handed over their website from their agency, and they tend to put it on the side and just take the orders and start packing, and they're focusing on the logistics and the fulfillment. And they forget about their SEO. They forget about creating new content. They forget about their stock management. And it's only when it creates problems for them. I'm sort of positioned in a way that I can come into your business, doesn't matter what size it is. And I would say I can help you start working out what part of the platform you should be focusing on to get the most out of your business. Okay. So, the next question I get a lot, I need a website, but sort of I don't know where to start, right? And Make a Switch is part of the reason why I did that, because you can just go on there, make a switch, or you could just go on there and contact me on the website, and I can help you from setting up an appointment. We can have a chat. Depending on the size of your business, I would work towards getting a sort of a foundation set first. A lot of people rush straight into e-commerce because it can set up a store and immediately can start taking orders. But sometimes it's not, necessary. Sometimes you can create a basic contact form depending on what it is you're offering. For example, mostly services you wouldn't really put in a shopping cart, okay? It would more be products, drop ship potentially, because you wouldn't have a warehouse. So you might want to use fulfillment by Amazon, for example. So these are all the things I can help you with. So where to start is always a question, and it's really a discovery process that I go through with my clients. I sit there and we go through it. It doesn't take long. And by then I can pretty much guarantee I'll have a platform, either a pre-built platform like Squarespace, Wix, or even as basic or isn't as broadly used as WordPress with a shopping cart built onto it. Then go on to a number of pre-built platforms for e-commerce like Shopify, BigCommerce, and so on. They're not always the best solutions. There's Magento. It depends on what your requirements are and what the scope for your startup is. The other one is, I've had this a lot actually. It's more to do with Google and paid advertising, SEO, and so on. And I'm hoping to get a guest on from Google in the next few weeks. But I would say to businesses out there, doesn't matter what size you are, you have to be running a campaign, whether it's one of the automated campaigns from Google or whether it's a campaign that you're setting up to target keywords. But you have to be there. You have to be on Google. You have to protect your brand, and you have to really work out what keywords are converting. And businesses tend to use conversions quite loosely, business owners. And for me, conversions is part of what we do in terms of the scope of work we would sit down with you to understand. And the reason we do that is because a conversion is not necessarily just a new client. Okay. A conversion could be a click to call. It could be a visit to your business page, because the funnel, and I mentioned it in the last, and this is part of the reason I wanted to mention it, is because some people ask me, what are you talking about when I say conversion funnel or the purchasing funnel? And the purchasing funnel has got to do with discovery. So the first part of the conversion funnel is awareness. So you're going through sort of what's called an awareness phase. You then go through what's called an influencing phase. So that influencing phase is what marketing media, so whether it's a video on YouTube, whether it's an ad on Facebook, whether it's an ad on Google, wherever that ad might be, this is part of that influencing factor. So it's going to do things like remarketing. If you've viewed a product, it's going to continually remind you that, hey, this product is here for you to buy. And then there's the conversion phase. And I like to break it down in those three simple phases of the funnel, because the conversion phase is the tipping point in which the customer goes from being just looking, tire kicking, let's just say, that's the first, to then, okay, well, I'm now interested in product Sony TV from, priced from $1,000 to $2,000, for example. And then the conversion phase is, okay, well, where am I going to buy it from? Who's going to ship it? How quickly can they get it to me? Do they have it in stock? Do I trust that brand? How's their reviews? All of these things go into a consumer's mind when they're in that last phase. And whether it's working out, you don't get enough at the beginning of the funnel, you don't get enough through the middle of the funnel, or the end of the funnel. When I say you don't get enough, I mean you don't get enough clicks or views to your page or impressions on your ads for customers in your audience to be aware of who you are. Okay, it's really quite that simple. So if I say to you as a business, well, do you want your customers to know who you are and where you are and when you're open and how much your products and services cost? Every business owner is going to say to me, yes. All right. And I'm going to say, well, why wouldn't you be on Google? Why wouldn't you advertise online? And a lot of the times they say, well, I do print, I sponsor the local school. And look, that's all fantastic, but your main audience is online. Okay. It's online. It's in social. It's on Google. They're there. You just have to find them and you have to make sure that they see you in order for you to get a conversion. And it's that simple. And then obviously the cost comes into it. It starts off more expensive, but as the quality of your targeting and your ads improves, the cost comes down. Okay. And then, so a lot of the times Google takes a while, its algorithm. So it needs big data sets. So you need to get a lot of impressions. Google can't make a decision on whether or not it should show your ad based on a keyword or something that someone has searched based on the intent around that search. For example, a local mechanic. Okay. They don't know whether or not your mechanic services is relevant to that search unless they see you there. They see that you're the people are clicking on your ads and you're relevant to that search. And this is the key. They've got to run for long enough in order for you to be relevant for the algorithm. Okay. So yes, my answer is yes, absolutely. You have to be on Google and you have to be there. All right. Second part of the show, we're going to get into the news, and we've got some really interesting news, AI news, in fact. And now, for those that don't know, Elon Musk started a company quite a few years ago now called Neuralink. And what it aims to do is solve what he's always called the human bandwidth interface to technology issue. And the issue is we have thumbs, opposable thumbs, and those thumbs are on a keyboard, which are on a phone, and you're tapping away, right? And your interface is so slow. And he wants to solve that problem by putting your brain, basically merging it with technology and building in the ability just to think about things and they'll appear on the screen. And why I think this article is really, really interesting for everybody out there. And for those that are listening on the podcast, the story is basically a guy sitting there with a chip on the top of his brain, and it has a wire coming off it, which is like a USB-C cable. Okay. And it's implanted on the top of his skull. All right. Now, what these scientists were able to do, they were able to use artificial intelligence to map the neurons in the brain as they fire when words are read. Now, in this particular article, there was a woman who suffered a stroke, so she lost the ability to speak. The very fact that they were able to restore her speech simply by using artificial intelligence just goes to show that it's not all Terminator robots and dark and gloomy. And humans are going to find ingenious ways to use artificial intelligence to improve our lives. The next one moving on, it's a similar medical story, and this is just incredible. Now, there's a new documentary with Michael J. Fox, and we know how sad that story is. You know, everybody loves Michael J. Fox from his early days in Back to the Future, and it's just heartbreaking to see him struggle with the disease. Now, obviously, if they got to it before he was showing symptoms, his outlook would have improved. It's similar to cancer, is my understanding. Okay, and so what these Medical Daily have published an article, and what in that article they're saying is that the artificial intelligence is actually able to scan the image of somebody's retina, all right, and they can diagnose Parkinson's disease 7 years from when it will appear. So that then leads on to an early detection and more timely treatment. So this article comes to us from the European Union, and what they've done is they've passed a law that forces apps like TikTok, Facebook, Threads as well, any app as part of the Digital Services Act in Europe, right, that offers personalized AI recommendations on videos. And you'll be able to go in and you'll be able to turn off these AI recommendations. And obviously the fear is that it'll affect the apps because it'll make them less sticky, you know. And these apps are all KPI'd around how long you spend on it, how much of your daily screen time do those apps take up. Now, obviously, we know TikTok is super addictive. Now, it's just designed in such a way, and we know what effect they can have on things like political campaigns and swaying the opinions of people. But I really think this is a step towards making sure that artificial intelligence doesn't take over people in a way that they don't understand. And by that, I mean, you put a frog in water and you slowly boil it, it'll die. It's a similar thing. Obviously, it's not that grim, but Simon Sinek talks about it. Actually, it's endorphins, dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin. And those, they look at the brain and the activity that goes on. And when you see something that you like, there are all these little micro moments that happens within the app. Okay, what it's doing is it's observing how far you scroll, how quickly you scroll over the next few videos. It's looking at things like the video itself, all of the comments around the video, the sentiment analysis of that video, and it then starts to build a profile of you. Now, these app providers say, "Oh yeah, but it's just a hashed ID, and it doesn't matter." Okay, because at the end, it's you looking at a screen, which they're manipulating to make sure that you stay on that app for as long as possible. Okay, and I found it super hard to actually put it down. And I'd be on the toilet, I'd be scrolling through TikTok. I'd be having breakfast, I'd be scrolling through TikTok, and I eventually just said to myself, I've got to stop. And I uninstalled it. And the moment I uninstalled it, I started feeling better. So for those people who don't think that this is such a big deal, it is. And I think the fact that now you can go into these apps and now turn off the algorithm as such, that it's only going to look at things like your profile information, what's on your feed, what you actually are interested in, and it's not going to try and entice you into different areas, I think is a really good move from Europe. Anything that's using personal data, I think it's getting to a point now where if you combine that with AI, and then eventually quantum computing, of course, it's just going to be mind-bogglingly powerful. Okay. So that's it for the social media side of things. Actually, well, there's one other thing I did want to touch on. The Pope has warned the perils of social media. Okay, I'd have to say he's right, because so many times, it's funny. I met up with my nephew the other day, and we just went to the pub, and we're sitting there having a beer with each other, and we're just talking. We're talking about the podcast, and we'll just talk. He wants to start his own podcast as well. Shout out to you, Chris. And this young couple, good-looking couple, sat down, and they're immediately sat down and they're on their phones scrolling Instagram. They weren't even talking to each other, and it went on for about I'd have to say about 10 minutes before they decided to pick up the menu, order some drinks, and then put their phones down. And it's a common thing. I see it all the time when the only way to break the ice is to remove yourself from a situation, look at your phone, and then slowly ease your way into a conversation by seeing these different signals, like putting your phone down and then saying, hey, do you want to order something? Like, that's 10 minutes, 15 minutes of conversation that you missed out on. And the Pope is talking about this, okay, the perils of relationships and what social media is doing. And if anybody hasn't seen it, I highly recommend the show on Stan called Evil. Okay, and it's quite funny. It's I've actually followed the actress in it. She plays a psychologist. What comes up a lot is these themes with evil and social media and technology. And it comes up a lot in the show, almost, I would say, every episode, but every episode has its own theme. I'm not going to give it away, but I highly recommend you guys just jump on there, jump onto Stan and have a look and watch it, because it's really interesting. And it's actually what the Pope talks about. You know, these algorithms, how they can propagate sort of this left or right wing propaganda, and also hate speech and hatred. The Pope is extremely powerful, and especially in Europe. And I think if not, he would be in the ears of all of the legislators over in Europe to make sure that the devil, as he sees it, is not getting into these algorithms. You know, believe it or not, you know, I'm not saying, you know, I'm religious or anything, but it's interesting that he's actually physically come out and said, hey, this stuff is really bad. And it was only just yesterday that it was reported on. And I think we're going to see more of that. Yeah, anyway, interesting story I thought I'd share with you guys. And last story for today is the story that we'll all be glad to hear. It is a first world problem, obviously, but Virgin have released a really cool feature of the app that allows you to track your luggage. And there's the digital officer, Paul Jones, said he's proud to announce that he's the first airline in the country to offer ability. Now, this story comes to us from news, is where I picked it up at. But it allows you to track it via the app. You get a tag. I would say it's an RFID tracking tag, and it's going to save you from losing your luggage. I think they're a bit late to the party, if you ask me. I think everybody uses air tags now anyway. You hide them in your bag, and if someone wants to steal your bag, they're going to steal it. This is not going to change anything. In fact, Apple's technology is probably better, and it seems to me it seems like a huge waste of money, but it is what it is. You know, if they want to do it, it's for free, I suppose. If you don't have air tags, and I suppose that's a good part about it. Anybody putting significant amounts of expensive equipment, for example, whatever, you would always have insurance and make sure you put your air tags in your products, in your stuff, as well as the bag. Makes it super hard to lose. Moving on to the last part of the show, this young player, well, he was playing in the NPL, and on Friday he basically went to, and I'll try and show it. He went to head the ball, and as he went to head the ball, he came down on his head. Okay, so you can picture that. All right, but as he came down on his head, he never really he was sort of on his shoulder and the side of his head. He stayed down and the game played on, but the ref kept his eyes on him. And this referee, a huge shout out to this referee, because he is an absolute hero in my opinion. A lot of referees would have called somebody on, and that's critical time. You blow your whistle, so you blow your whistle, stop the play, call on the medics. They would come straight over and do that, right? But he had stopped breathing, and it was basically, anything could have happened. He could have gone into cardiac arrest. This referee has run over and put him in the recovery position and realized that his tongue had gotten caught in his throat. So he's put him in the recovery position, taken his tongue out, and he could start breathing in. And he basically saved his life. But this ref just happened to be a doctor, okay, and a cardiac rehabilitation expert, right? So he's obviously, if there's anybody you want to go down and stop breathing in front of, it's this guy. And he's turned a villain, which is normally the ref. Everybody hates the ref, into an absolute hero. So this was a really cool article. If you're interested in more, to read more, I'd say just jump onto news.com.au. I'll link the article in the show notes and you guys can have a look at it. Anyway, that's a wrap from me. Thanks again for listening to the podcast. It's my first solo podcast, so a little bit nervous, but thanks for watching and enjoying the show. And continue with the comments. As I said, like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. If you can leave some comments about what you're interested, we could do a whole show on it. Enjoy the rest of your week. So thanks very much for watching. See you later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.